welcome to another video. So I previously did a video about Mars going retrograde into Aquarius. So this video I'll be talking more about Mars retrograding into Capricorn. It's gonna be just a few weeks if I remember correctly. So I think Mars will be going direct again in the end of August. So let's get into it. First, a little bit about the Capricorn energy. So to me, one of the main things about the Capricorn energy is that it's concerned with the creation of systems. So one of the things that comes very innately to Capricorn energy is to create systems in order to get the most out of the energy that it's put in. And these systems, they tend to last for a very long time once they have been created. And so when we are talking about, for the individual, we're talking about the creation of habits. And I'm sure you all know how this works. You know, once you have established a habit, it's much easier to start doing that activity on a regular basis than if you're trying to do something completely new to you. You know, whether this be riding a bike or eating vegetables every day. You know, once you get into the routine of doing it, you will start creating these automatic behavioral patterns, and the energy you expend trying to get into the activity is actually lower. And then when we are talking about the larger scale, like for instance on the scale of a society, we can talk about systems like the creation of social benefits or public transportation, you know, things that will benefit the whole or benefit the population at large. And like I said, once these systems have been created, they kind of tend to feed into themselves. So the structure will feed into themselves, and they will continue to run without needing much extra effort. The shadow side of, you know, this aspect of the Capricorn energy is, of course, when habits turns into addictions. So when there are a lot of negative consequences because of an habit. So for instance, I mean, this is pretty easy to understand for the individual, but when we're talking about systems for the society, it's when these kind of larger systems are created to enslave people or to take power or resources away from people. So it's no longer benefiting, or it's no longer for the greater good, it's only benefiting a smaller group of people. And if you look at the world today, we see that there's quite a lot of examples of these kind of more shadowy or there's a lot of examples of the shadow side of the Capricorn energy coming forth. So let's go into a little bit, you know, a bit more deeper what I see coming up for us with this Mars retrograde into Capricorn. So Mars is, or the way I see it again, you know, because this is just kind of the information that I've been getting. So Mars is representing our ego, and it's our active and protective masculine energy. And so I want to keep drawing on the analogy that I used for the Mars in Aquarius video, where I refer to Mars as our soldier. Because like I said in that video, a soldier is traditionally not a free human being. So the soldier takes orders from someone else, whether it's through a system or just connected to another human being more directly. And one of the biggest ways to really create soldiers or to enslave people is to convince them that they don't have a sovereign soul, so that they don't have an inner guidance system that they can connect to know what to do, but that they have to look outside themselves. And so, from my perspective, this is part of what has created the dynamic within our psyche and also within our societies, where the masculine energy is not acknowledging the value of the feminine energy. And so we see that the belief systems that our current egos and also our societies are built upon are creating this negative cycle where we end up depleting our feminine energy, which is our natural abundance, our natural ability to heal ourselves, to perceive our intuition, and also to hold space for new creation. And that's creation really not based on the old systems, so it's connecting to your own inner genius. And with Uranus moving into Taurus, now Uranus is retrograde again, but it will move back into Aries and then back into Taurus. And this 7-year period, I think we will see a lot of this kind of creation. It's more of a genius kind of creation. So I think that this transit is very important also for the kind of era that we're stepping into right now. But yeah, let's get back to this Mars retrograde. So, when we deplete our feminine energy on the small scale, we end up doing the same thing as a collective on the larger scale. So we have been, in a way, draining the earth, mistreating the earth, polluting the earth, not really creating systems that protects and respects the earth, but instead, competing to try to get as many resources from her as possible. And a lot of this is due to our collective programming that is rooted in lack and fear. So not only has our inner masculine energy completely been ignoring the inner feminine energy, but the belief systems that we have been taught has made him very low vibrational. And to make matters even worse, because the feminine has been ignored and not valued for so long, she also becomes low vibrational and reactive. And really, this is just our inner guidance system telling us that, we're walking in the wrong direction when we're feeling this kind of reactiveness within us. But because we have had this belief as a collective that we cannot trust our emotions, that we cannot trust our intuition, we have been kind of unable to decipher these or the content of these messages, and instead we have tended to start medicating, started to become addicted to substances, to behaviors, relationships, noise and drama, anything that kind of helps us to run away from our progressively darker emotions. And again, this is on a small scale. We also see this reflected to us within our relationships and within our collectives, within our societies. And what I just described now, that is really the archetype of the Devil card, which is associated with Capricorn in the tarot. So when Mars goes retrograde in Capricorn, we will be looking at these tendencies within ourselves and also within our societies, because this is what we're trying to heal at the moment. So let's go just a little bit deeper again. Because if you think about the time that is associated with the Capricorn energy, its season starts with the winter solstice. And so it is the darkest time of the year in the northern hemisphere. And so one of the lessons of the Capricorn energy that we're kind of moving into now is that things might look hopeless if we focus on the material world, if we focus on the outside. And that is really the characterization of the unevolved Capricorn energy. You know, it's being held in darkness because of subconscious belief systems and thought patterns that keep you stuck in a state of lack, in a state of fear, and in a state of chasing addiction. And chasing addiction is really, you know, the chase of a short-term high, because we are kind of unable to connect to our soul, you know, because we are unable to experience this high vibration over a longer period of time. And so being in this kind of drained state, right, we feel really chained to the material world, and we think that we're trapped, and this really keeps us feeling powerless. And if you look at the devil again in the tarot, the Rider-Waite tarot, for instance, you see that the masculine and the feminine in the card, they are not cooperating. They're turned away from each other. You know, they're not in union. So this is in a way what we have been going through as a collective, and it's still like this in many ways. You know, if we look around us, we see that many of the people that has the most control within the world today, they don't seem to care at all about the health of the planet, you know, the health of Gaia, or the health of humanity, which are both a representation of the feminine energy, because they just seem really addicted to money and to power, which is really the representation of the old masculine energy. So we see that there's a lot of separation around us still, and when we are observing this can also bring us into the feeling of powerlessness. And powerlessness is really one of the most difficult feelings to sit with, because it's brought about by thinking that there's nothing we can do to improve a certain situation. And when we're in that vibration, we're really so far away from our soul, right? Because when we're in the vibration of our soul, we feel empowered. We know that we can make changes within our own lives, and we know that we can make changes to our surroundings. And so being in a low vibration, we don't have that. We can't really see the path forward. We feel like there's no hope. And when we feel this, there's a tendency to turn to our addictions, you know, whatever that might be, to run away from the issue or the problem, to try to forget about it. This is because it's so painful. And the thing is that this feeling of being powerless, you know, we see that it's quite prevalent in the world today. Millions and millions of people, they think that, they believe that they don't really have the power to make real changes within their own lives, to pull themselves out of lack or fear, and let alone make changes, you know, to the structures within our society that are so driven towards this materialism. And so I think that many of us will also be working with this during the next few years, you know, helping people step into their power by acknowledging and cultivating their feminine essence. And I think that many of us will also try to create systems within our societies that can allow for this shift to happen. But to be able to start that journey, you know, we first need to believe that it's possible. We need to find our own power first. And we need to believe that we are going to be strong enough to influence such a shift. So with this Mars retrograde, I think it's first of all important to look at anything, you know, any behavior, any thought, any habit, whatever it might be, that makes you pull your attention away from your darker emotions. Because that is what can really drain our power. And it's just not recognizing if we are carrying any lower vibrational emotions created by lower vibrational beliefs or habits. And not only does it really drain our energy, you know, drain our natural abundance, it will reflect and project onto everything that we observe around us. So we start fearing things, you know, we start focusing on the darkness in other people. We start focusing on where we disagree with other people instead of looking towards the areas where we can actually cooperate and understand each other. And so again, it makes us turn away from each other. You know, it creates separation, both within and also without. So that's kind of like number one. And this is also really the key to understanding to kind of getting into the evolved version of the Capricorn energy. And that is to focus on vibration. So when we work on vibration, we first, you know, focus, like I said, on recognizing our darkness, our pain, acknowledging our pain. And as we do that, we start connecting more and more with our soul, because we start raising our vibration naturally, which brings us closer and closer to our soul. And then it's much easier to perceive the messages from our soul. And as we start to be able to match the frequency of our soul for longer and longer periods, without really needing any of these addictions or highs that maybe we have used before to kind of bring us up, we will start to really feel that power within us, you know, just by being. So not feeling that we need to do anything, that we need to accomplish anything. We can access that power just by being. And this power it's kind of like, the way I feel it, it's very quiet. It's more like a knowing. It's this inner security. And when you have this, you are able to perceive the world around you without fear and lack. So we can see, it's kind of like we can see the enlightened path, right? Because then we see all of our opportunities. That's when we see rising, you know. We don't not so much notice the lack and the fear and the disagreements. We start really just tuning into the opportunities, the positivity. And when we start creating from that vibration, we start creating with light. You know, we start creating more light into our networks and our connections, and together with the people that we're wanting to cooperate with. So the way I see it, it's like, you know, taking the elevator from ground level or maybe even below ground up to the penthouse. And when you get up to the penthouse, you really see the big picture. and you can see how you can maneuver around the obstacles that, you know, when you were down at ground level, they seemed so like intimidating and overwhelming that you didn't even dare to think about how you could possibly get around them, you know. It was much easier to try to ignore them by using one of these addictions, you know, that we tend to have in the world today. But when you start getting up into the penthouse by really raising our vibration, we can really see that, you know, the sun is rising in the horizon, there's hope. We can also start seeing these bigger cycles taking place within our societies. And this will help us really also time our efforts, to see when it's a good time to really make a move. And it will also help us recognize other people that are in the same place as yourself and that you can kind of join forces with. And that is really the Capricorn energy when it is evolved, because the evolved Capricorn energy, it learns how to carry the light within, to carry the hope and the faith within, no matter what the outside looks like. And this is really how we will light up the path to get through the struggles of winter. You know, and when we see that the time is ripe, when we see that the earth is ready, this is when we start planting our seeds. And again, this is really that Uranus in Taurus energy, that genius creation coming forth. And to be able to tap into your genius creation, you really need to connect to your own truth, your own higher aspects. So again, you know, everything is kind of coming around to us working with our vibration. Because right now I feel it's really a time of prepping and of getting ourselves ready so that we will be able to have that stamina and the strength within our masculine energy, within our egos, to carry and protect our feminine. So our light within, you know, our love and peace, and our connection to our higher aspects, no matter what we will encounter on the outside. So the next 2 to 3 weeks, I feel it's all about becoming aware of every mental program, every bad habit that might be creating a low vibrational response, or in some way preventing us from rising higher than a certain vibrational level. And as we start this rise of vibration and start really connecting to our own power, I think that many of us will also start to contemplate how we can assist the collective with going through these changes as well. Because this energy is going to keep going. You know, there's going to be a lot of planets in Capricorn. Pluto is there already, Saturn is already there, Jupiter is moving there, I think early next year, and in a few months the North Node will move into Cancer, and so we will have the South Node in Capricorn. And so there's going to be huge changes to that old Capricorn archetype, you know, the unevolved Capricorn that has a very materialistic focus on reality. And so I feel that for many of us watching this video, this Mars retro in Capricorn is when we truly start to understand and feel within us how much power we actually do have in regards to contributing in influencing these changes within our societies. And of course, you know, also what changes we need to make within the structures of our own lives, you know, within the structures of our own egos, so that we can move ourselves into this higher vibrational frequency. So yeah, that's really what I feel for this Mars in retrograde. I think it's, you know, I still feel like this energy of spending a lot of time in reflection and really preparing yourself, because I think that for a lot of us things will start to move quite quickly during the fall months, and so I feel like this is like the final months of really prepping and making ourselves as stable as we can so that we can move forward in the best way possible. So yeah, I would definitely love to hear from you if you have any comments or you want to share anything. I really appreciate that. I think it's so interesting. And anyway, I hope you have a great day. So much love to you and take care.